Oh dear, I hadn't seen the image. Now I kind of.
Maybe it's best.
Yeah, I shouldn't have pointed that out, should I?
I had already noticed.
So would it be podcast but not webcast live?
Are we?
Yep.
Ah,
It's streamed.
okay,
But we're not live yet, are we?
You are.
We are?
Yes,
All right.
this second, just this
Oh.
second.
okay. Nice.
It'll be okay.
Half of what we get. Yeah. Are you ready? All right. Okay. Call to order the February 18th, 2016 meeting of the Design Review Committee for the City of Cotati. Would the Secretary please call the roll?
Member Glendenning. Here. Member Langberg.
Here?
Chair Morgan.
Here?
Vice Chair Weaver.
Here?
Member West.
Here.
Member Connell.
Here?
Member Lampert. Here. All present.
Thank you. We have a set of minutes from Thursday, October 6, 2015 to approve. Are there any comments or changes to these minutes? And if not, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved?
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Okay. One abstain and all the rest aye. Thank you. Oral in, yes. Any changes to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair, no changes.
Okay. I would ask a question at this time, though. The second item on the agenda, we're asked to do preliminary design review on that. Is there a reason, would there be a reason, and this may bring it up when we talk about it, that we couldn't do final design review at the same time?
Yes, it's outside the threshold of the code regulations for combining the two, so it will have to come back.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, this is the time for public comment or communication. Any member of the public wishing to speak on an item that's not on the agenda, please come forward to the podium and state such. Seeing no one, I'm closing that item. Let's move on to the matters at hand. The first item is seat wall design for the Old Redwood Highway Downtown Redevelopment Plan. Staff, is there a report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello to all of our committee members. It's nice to see everybody after such a long hiatus. For the sitting committee members, the ones who've been here, they've seen this project a couple of times. For the two new members, I know it's not as familiar, so feel free, we've brought some background materials for that reason, so feel free to ask us to put those up if you'd like to get oriented. The committee granted preliminary design review for our downtown road project, what we call sometimes the revitalization project, sometimes the gateway project, but they're all referring to the same thing, which is the beautification and repaving of Old Redwood Highway, roughly between La Plaza and Highway 116. So this piece of it is the final piece in the design review approval, and it is the seat wall. And so as the committee probably recalls, all the rest of the components of the plazas, so there are two public plazas on the north and south sides of 116. The committee has approved the design components for those previously, and the piece that's remaining is the design of the walls themselves. And so staff is now bringing that back and hoping to get preliminary design review approval today. I want to introduce to you Mr. Craig Scott, who is our city engineer, and he's going to be implementing the project and has already started, obviously, with the larger project that is now under construction. And also with us is Mario Uribe. Mr. Uribe is the artist who designed the project, And I sent, as a follow-up to the packet to you, a collection of some of his other public art projects. So you can see he has an extensive background, and we're very happy that he's submitted this design for your consideration today. Staff, prior to consulting with Mr. Uribe, had put together some basic parameters that we thought the wall should have. Just as a reminder and for the public's information, the wall is essentially walls meander through the plazas, and at points in the plaza they go down into the horizontal plane and then come back up into vertical. So they're continuous in some respects and intermittent in others. But that was an important component because we wanted to have interest both to motorists as well as users of the plaza. So it was important that we keep the context of the design going into the horizontal as well as in the vertical. So that was one parameter that staff thought was important. And the other pieces is that the seating be integrated into the wall rather than having standalone benches. We wanted it to be a seat wall. And then the third was that we really wanted to bring forward for your consideration something that was reflective of either Cotati's history or the local environment or culture. And I think Mr. Uribe has done a great job of integrating all of those. He didn't choose one or two, he integrated all of those, and so it's a really interesting design. So again, the walls themselves where the mosaic will be featured are 4 foot tall. They're CMU block that's stucco coated. And the stucco coat I included so that you would have some comparison. I included the color, and it's the Viejo color, which is, sort of a blue-toned tan. And I've included Mr. Uribe's design statement in here for your background information, and I certainly don't want to read it. I would rather have Mr. Uribe describe it to you. But essentially, the wall would be built as part of the contract, and then Mr. Uribe and his team would come in and create the mosaic on the wall. And I think with that, I just as soon have Mr. Uribe come forward and give you a little bit of context for his work, and then we can go back into more technical questions. So, thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. And when I was contacted about designing the wall, I was very excited. I've done a lot of mosaic work in the past, but this was very unique in that it had to incorporate several ideas that were unique to Cotati. And one of them was that it would make some reference to the natural environment, the laguna and water and nature. The other one was that it would make some reference to the native culture. I forget what the third one was, but, the music. And so what I did was that I designed something that's not representational, because that would be prohibitive cost-wise to do. But in using kind of a flowing stream of water, I added some notes. Actually, there's some samples of the tile back there. The small red tile would appear, the flowing stream would be almost like a staff, like a musical staff, and then those would create a rhythm suggesting music or notes. That's how I incorporated the notes. The tiles go from blue to green, sort of. The meandering design actually will be sort of green at blue at the bottom and turn to green as it goes up. The colors are behind you. The wall can have pretty vibrant colors, but the floor, where it goes into the pathway and people have to walk on, has to be a different kind of tile that's really not readily available and bright vibrant colors. So I found that tile, but it's pretty nice, I think, and it goes really well with the wall with the shiny ones. And how I would integrate them is I would bring some of the shiny ones into the wall, just barely next to the wall, and sprinkle them maybe a little bit where the two connect, and bring the wall tile up to the wall. So it'd be I think, a smooth transition between the two. But the other ones are non-slip and much safer to walk on. The reference to the native culture is the design, the geometric design. I believe that particular one is called a butterfly design, but there are others. I think there were 3. I submitted about 5 or 6 of them, and there were 3 that I'm not sure which one. Did you decide which one?
Thank you for pointing that out. Staff forwarded 2 of the options that are in your packet, so 2 of the total.
Okay. So all of this work is hand done. Has to be. It can't be ordered online. So it's very labor intensive. And I work with young people from Sonoma County. They're apprentices through a program called Art Start, and I employ them and teach them how to do all sorts of work, not just tile work, but painting murals and work on steel sculptures, etc. So they would be doing all of the work. Not all of the work, but at least a lot of that intensive work. I would hire other people to actually install it. That's more technical. I'm not sure if I left anything out, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Yes?
My question is, which of the wall cap tile patterns is your favorite? I mean, if we have to choose one, I just wondered which one
I'd have to
you
see
like.
them all again. Excuse me.
Basically, there's like 2 options that we're considering here, right?
I think these are the
Yes.
2 options
Oh,
that you're
okay.
considering. I like the top one, this one. I think it's the same one, except it's upside down there. The field tile should be on the bottom. And also, these are tiles that I had in my studio that I just happened to,
Is that the snake basket design?
let's see.
They're both.
Yeah, snake, that's what it is. It is, snake basket. The other one is maybe a little too light. This is a stronger, it reads, also reads more like a basket design, to me, anyway. I guess it's a personal thing.
Let's just leave it right where it is, okay? and focus on the discussion here, please.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You got your answer, Sally, right? Okay, good.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, yeah, turn your mic on, please.
How do you turn it on?
Press.
Where it says press.
I was wondering this is my first time with this design here, so I was wondering about the mosaic. Now the mosaic it's facing when you drive into the corridor or the gateway to the city. Is that
I
right?
think it faces towards the plaza.
Towards the center.
Design here. Yeah, towards the center, towards the walkway.
Is there a design on the back side of the wall at all?
None that I know of.
So that will be blank? Okay. Stucco. No, I was just wondering if there was some balance between both sides.
I think on one side, the back would face that field, empty field towards the freeway, and the other one faced the street.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. We're doing questions now from the commission.
Yeah, I have a question, because it looks like it does reverse from the plan. It faces one way in the curve and then faces the other.
Right.
And so the mosaic would be on one side and go down and reverse itself. So the back side would reverse down as you go down the serpentine.
So you can see it from the back, you're saying? Or
The
it comes, from what I have here, it comes down the side of the wall and then
design reverses
goes
from
flat.
side to side.
It goes,
Right.
yeah.
As the wall meanders
Yeah,
in S
okay.
curve, sort of, the side that's
Right.
facing towards the plaza
Oh, okay, I see in
with
red
either
here
one
it's
having a
marked,
mosaic,
but that's,
yeah.
yeah,
So
okay, I
goes
got it.
on the pathway and then comes up the other
Okay,
side.
that sounds exciting.
Or put another way, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is this entire pattern and the bench is all visible to motorists who are passing by. It faces the roads, is that correct?
Well, it changes.
As you curve around, yes.
No,
No?
it's inside, excuse
Inside.
me. The red line shows it fairly well. It's not super clear, but the red line, I assume, is where the mosaic is.
Right.
And so if you see, like on this one, Tim, it comes back away from the road,
Okay,
and then it goes mostly towards the road.
then meandering is appropriate.
So if I could clarify, it's staff's intent that the mosaic always face the outside of the plaza. If the committee has feelings about that it should cross over or under, that's certainly something we can talk about. But the way that it's currently envisioned is that the mosaic is always facing outward or toward traffic.
But the fact that it meanders as much as it does, the inside and outside is not so clear in a way. When you say it faces outside, it's facing more of the plaza sometimes, and then it goes back, it switches. So you're
Yeah,
saying,
so-
so in this diagram, for example, it's always on this side.
That's why I said it always faces motorists, because it doesn't always face the majority of the plaza, but it always faces motorists.
That's what I meant, that's the way I interpret it, yes. Is everyone clear on that now, on the committee, that we've got the kind of, because yeah.
And so,
No, I'm not clear. So
Okay,
it faces the majority of the traffic, but the traffic, as you go around the corner, the traffic changes from one corner to one. from
no,
one-
not really. So maybe it's a good time, Mr. Chair, if you'd allow us to
please do.
put up the graphics for the two newer members. I'll borrow this mic in case. Okay, so the two plazas are located here. This is Crossroads. Thank you, Tam. Crossroads Shopping Center. This is the former gas station site. This is the Chevron station. So the two public plazas consist of this right-of-way, this extra right-of-way that you can see here, and on the south side of the intersection, this sort of widened right-of-way here. So the walls meander through both of those, as you've all observed, sort of in a serpentine fashion. And so, as it stands right now, the mosaic would face outward toward motor traffic. And then show this one as well. Here's and view. We've got our new equipment here that we're figuring out how to use. So.
Yeah, that's a great, yeah, that is like the picture we needed in the packet. That would have helped, yeah.
Yeah, that's much better.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that helps a lot.
Any questions?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm good with that too, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the wall. This is the bench here, and then the stream goes across the path, and then there's the other bench which is facing this.
Mhm.
So this one is facing mostly towards the street, but this one is facing away.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah, go ahead, Eris.
So I have just a color question. In between the Pomo design on the top and the river below, the color in between, is it that beige
Right,
square
it would be a
sort of there?
beige color, and that's actually, I love the colors of the logo, That's what I would try and go with, actually, kind of a tan like that. And also the grout I had in my studio was kind of a dark gray, and I would use a grout similar to the tile, so it would be not as visible.
I see.
So let's just kind of go around here in the committee, starting with you, Carl. Any other questions?
No, I think they've been satisfied.
All right. Sally?
No more questions?
Eris? Lars?
I have questions. Questions to staff. It may be late in the game in a sense, but could you just tell, I'm just curious what the process was to have Mario do the design. There was no design competition, request for proposals, anything like that. It was just like, we love Mario, and I love Mario, don't get me wrong, but is that how it went, and then you just worked with him on the design, and then we're just reviewing the results of all that?
Essentially, yes. As you recall, Firma was the landscape designer who put together the basic concepts for the plaza, and they were familiar with Mr. Uribe's work. And yes, staff contacted Mr. Uribe, and once we saw his experience with public art projects, that convinced us that he had the narrow range of expertise that we were looking for. So yes, there was no design competition for it. That's true.
Thank you.
Jay?
No questions, thank you.
And Mike?
Yeah, I do have one comment. I do love the sinuous character of it. It's quite beautiful, and I love that as a landscape feature. My question is, in terms of the length, it's roughly about 100 feet long or so. I'm just eyeballing it.
It's altogether, both walls are over 200 feet.
So 100 feet per wall, more or less.
A little over.
And it looks like they're somewhat asymmetrical where they break in half, maybe 60 or 70 feet, and then 30 or so. The 60 or 70 feet seems like a large barrier. I mean, it might be a big seating place. It just seems large in scale to me.
Well, I wasn't involved in the actual design of
Okay.
the wall, only the mosaic.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure what the logic.
And at this stage of review,
Okay.
what we didn't have, why we're doing the final design, we really didn't have the mosaic pattern and all that. So the design of the wall and the features of have already been addressed by the committee.
Okay. Well, I love the design of the wall, of the mosaic then.
Thank
That's
you all
what we're
very
reviewing.
much. Thank
But I might suggest if there could be one more break, rather than, break it up into 3 pieces instead of 2.
Yeah, one of the discussion items about the wall itself was the concern about safety and about the height of it and location. So we went through that in some respects. So at this point, bring it all the way back to the committee. I do have one more question to staff. What is the expected schedule for completion of this, and how soon can you do it? No. What's the approximate completion schedule of this?
Sure. Craig Scott, Public Works Director. So this is being integrated along with the entire street construction project, and we already have that contractor working on that. So following direction from this body, we would give Mario the go-ahead to complete final design on the mosaic, and what that would enable him to do would be to coordinate with the contractor with doing the sidewalks and all of that rest of the work to make sure that the piece of the flat work there's a piece of plywood, a curvy plywood piece to be put down to reserve space for him to come in later with the tiles. But basically, we're looking at probably 4 or 5 weeks for that, and the entire project is moving forward with completion of most of it in May.
This year.
Yeah, and so actually everything's coming together really well, giving Mario enough time to get that final design to incorporate into the plaza construction. And so you'll see that in the next 4 to 6 weeks happening in the plaza, and then the rest of it in the next 2 or 3 months.
Thank you.
I think that at least coordinating with the contractor and getting all that, maybe getting all the drawings done, because every inch of that wall, at least where the stream is, I need to do a full-scale drawing and that people can work and fit the tile to. It's very, very, very time-consuming. So I'm not sure that if you're promising that the mosaic is going to be done by May.
Don't miss it. My question was simply, I have no idea what the approximate schedule for this is, nor do we have any purview over that. But the answer that Mr. Scott provided was, that's the time frame, as opposed to next year or next week, and that was what I was looking for. So thank you.
Great.
So if we need some additional discussion of this, and I believe we do, I believe we're being asked, if we're going to act on this, to get a motion, we need to provide a recommendation about our feelings about these on attachment 4 options 1 and 2. Am I not correct?
As one of the components, yes. I mean, we certainly are looking for overall feedback on the design from concept all the way through to the notes and colors and all of that, as well as the optional design for the basket design.
Let's just sort of break it down then to the committee. Are there any comments or questions or concerns about the colors?
I think it's beautiful, and I like it just the way it's presented.
Okay.
I would be perfectly happy with it. And I also prefer the option number 1 on the tile trim, but I would also defer to the artist, to whatever the artist thinks.
Okay. Well, yeah, all right. So it sounds like as far as colors go, we're good with that. And the design, I'm not hearing any concern. Go ahead.
So overall, I think it looks gorgeous. I particularly love the river part, and I love these bright colors, and I love it going down into the ground, and I think that's going to be beautiful. For me, the native design at the top and then this below, to me, they don't marry easily to my eye. I would be happy with just the river part and not the geometric on the top. I can live with it, with the geometric on the top, but it doesn't, to me, it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't add or it somehow doesn't flow. And actually, between the two options, I actually prefer option number 2 because it's got a little more spaciousness to it, and the number 1 feels, I don't know, darker or heavier to me.
Even when you look at, on the following page of the more perspective drawing with the way this, I understand. I understand that's number 2 there, so it's interesting. Any thoughts on that?
I would tend to agree, and also I would tend to defer to the artist for his preference. One suggestion might be, in order for them to blend more, would be more integration of the color palette of the. It seems like they are separate. I mean, there's a matte color here, there's shiny colors there. They do seem disparate.
Yeah, well, the matte colors are because of the nature of the tile. But the border actually, since now we are tiling the entire wall. Before, we were only tiling behind the bench. That design, it's a Pomo design, I believe, carries through the entire wall from beginning to end. So even though there's nothing on that wall except field tile, the river mosaic is only where the bench is. As the wall continues out there, it's just blank. So it would just be a blank tile wall. So the border gives it a little more character, and yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that, so it looks better to me, knowing that.
That does change it, because I feel very much what Eris was saying. I think the flowing landscape piece, to me, works really well. The colors are beautiful. The red within that, I think, is exciting. And then you have this third element that just doesn't feel like it works with the others. To me, and unfortunately, my mind also goes to the place of, well, it's a kind of token gesture to the native peoples. Because it's different, it's separate, it's like, okay, well, we'll throw that in too. Right. So if it was 2 of the 3 and it just took up more of the wall potentially, I think it would be much more successful. I think the colors of the river of that piece and the red together are really exciting and beautiful, and the other feels, the colors are more muted, which I understand why, that's appropriate, but together, to me, it doesn't really work.
Yeah, I've got a comment about that too. This top part is a very rigid engineering type straight line sort of thing. And then right below it is this nice free-form flowing river.
Right.
In a way, I'd sort of like to see it both sort of free-form, I guess, if I were to look at it, or the other way around, just the way I look at things. But I don't know if there's a pattern which is more random along the top, or moving type of pattern that might be better.
Since the patterns are geometric, it's difficult to make.
Yeah, I know. I was just wondering.
Rotate the squares, and it would be, if you all have difficulty with that basket pattern. I'm trying to think what other elements of native culture we could incorporate into the design that are not. The basket pattern was the easiest one.
I think what I, if you'll bear with me here, but if we get a show of hands for option 1 and option 2, I'm not sure where we are as a committee on that, because I'm intrigued by this discussion, but I'd just like to kind of know where we're feeling about it now.
Can I make one more comment?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I want to clarify a little bit why I kind of like option 1 and I like the band tile. I like that contrast, actually, between the symbolic geometry contrasting with the flowing river. And I like option 1 because if you kind of look at it and let the dark color recede and the light color advance, it's like a little row of mountains above. And the fact that it's going to be a continuous band, and maybe it is just sort of a token symbol of native culture, but it still is a symbol of native culture.
It's a decorative border, and
right,
that's what it was on the baskets as well.
And so it's this abstract trim, and then the river comes in and the river comes out, so I like that part of it and the contrast.
So, show of hands here. If I'll do it this way, I'm going to ask show of hands who likes option 1, who likes option 2, and the third one would be, we would recommend that the artist decide if that's possible here. And you can vote for all 3. Okay. Okay. Pardon? Okay. So it's option 1. Okay, that's 4. Option 2. Option 3. Okay. Okay. So. Okay. So we have between the artist deciding and option 1 seems to be a preference. Using that as information, any other questions about the design because we actually have the second item on the agenda, we do need to.
Yeah, and so I should just.
If you can, we need to bring it here, unless we have a specific question for you.
No,
Thank you.
No, it's okay.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this?
I have one comment. I think the way that it's drawn on the site plan, that it actually switches sides, would be a really nice way to do it. That when it switches, it's incorporating really the bigger plaza piece, and it would be interesting to see it disappear on one side and go to the other. So I think the way it's drawn, whether you intended to do that or not, is a better approach.
So, are we ready to make a motion on this? Would someone like to frame one? Staff recommends approval of this for final design review of the wall design. That's it. And I think you're taking the information here about that we contributed with the colors, but I think we need to have a preference for the two options that we've presented. So, again, I'm looking for a motion that might encompass this
I move
discussion.
that we go ahead and approve the mosaic design as submitted with option 1 for the upper tile border.
Is there a second to that?
Second?
Okay. Any amendments to that or concerns?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
If I could clarify one thing. Committee Member Langberg just brought up a point that I think is critical for us to know, and that is whether the majority of the committee members would also like to see the mosaic switch sides, because...
That would be an amendment, yes. Do we accept that amendment?
We do.
All right. All right.
I like it too.
All right. So the motion is amended as described by Committee Member Langman, or Lars, if you will. With that, Secretary, please call the roll.
Member Glendening? Aye. Member Langberg?
No. Nay. Aye.
Chair Morgan?
Aye.
Vice Chair Weaver?
Aye.
Member West?
Aye.
Member Connell?
Aye.
Member Lampert?
Aye.
That is 6 in favor, 1 opposed.
And
Motion passes.
And as far as, for the record, this design is really cool. I like it a lot. And thank you for bringing it in front of us here. Appreciate that. Can't wait to see it. With that, let's move to the second item on the agenda, which is a new 43,970 square foot industrial building located at 369 Blodgett Street. Staff, do you have some comments on that?
Yes, this project has been managed by John Paul Harries, our planner that you met a few months ago, I believe, and he's done a great job with this, so he's going to provide you with a staff report.
Where's the on button here? I think I'll do it from here because I have some things for the overhead that might help.
No, they just see us.
One step at a time. Yeah.
It'd be more interesting for them.
Well, thank you, Chairperson Morgan, members of the committee. My name's John Paul Harries, and I'm a planner with the City of Cotati. I've been here since May, and I'm looking forward to working with you and learning what your concerns and preferences are. And I know we're going to have quite a few more projects. I've got 4 more sitting on my desk that all are going to be coming here. So getting to this particular project has actually been around a couple times. And This report begins on page 20 of your staff report. It is a new 43,970 square foot building, single story, and it's to be located at 369 Blodgett Street. And it is actually lot 3 of what was the Candy Business Park, and that's this site here. It's the last remaining site to be developed. And that kind of shows you an aerial. This is the site here, and you can see how it's disturbed. And this particular site was part of the subdivision as well. It was carved off to be preserved in perpetuity. There were wetlands on the site, particularly down in that corner area. And it was part of the mitigation plan when the subdivision was approved. So, as I said, this is a resubmittal of what was approved in 2008. It was essentially the same building, but we've made some modifications to it to, one, bring it up to the modern code, as well as some other improvements that we felt would be good. The resolution approving this project and the environmental document are on pages 53 of your packet. And I think also, if you look at the, I have these plans here, but if you look at the very front page, you can get a perspective view. It's a low building with articulating roof line, which you can see there. It seems to be pretty consistent with the adjacent properties. I could show you some photos. This property is pretty much right across the street. That's the vacant lot on the right, and it's almost like a sister to it. It has very much the same design, and that is at the base, it has a cast-in-place concrete base, which is form-lined to look like CMU block, steel walls. The windows have steel awnings. They're divided with muntins. The colors that are being chosen are the tan and gray on the wall, and there's the metal plates that actually are the actual material. It has an ocean blue roof and a reddish brown trim. I also included the brochure up there if you wanted to see what palette of colors are available to choose from. But we were satisfied with the color at staff level. I think some of the other changes that we were happy about was, I think we got a nice landscape plan. In particular, it uses quite a few. The majority of the plants are native plants, and almost all low water usage. And most notably, on the right-hand side of this, that's the laguna that runs right there. That entire section is all native. Their water requirement will actually only last once they're established. They'll be on their own. And as you can see, it provides good shading for the parking lot, which is one of our rules. And it's kind of consistent with what's already going on in that particular neighborhood. Other changes that we did, we modified the parking. We reduced the parking by 6 spaces. We actually increased the requirement, but we reduced the number that was there. In the previous approval, they got a use permit for excessive parking. We've reduced that in order to increase the amount of landscaping and the infiltration capacity of the bioswales. One of the things we're going to be asking the Planning Commission is for a variance. The trash enclosure, if you look on this, is in this corner here, and it's 20 feet from the rear property line, and the rear property line has a setback of 30 feet. We actually kind of like its location where it's at. It's outside of the water course setback. It's well you won't see it from the road. It's hidden behind the building. There's a good ability to landscape around it. And the way they approached that in 2008 is they said, well, rather than that be the rear, the property to the north, let's have this be the rear. And then it was out. I personally don't like that approach because there's better protection to the Laguna by having the rear setback. There is no side setback required. So this maintains that setback, and it also provides consistency with the properties on either side. Additionally, the trash enclosure to the east, or the west, excuse me, is actually closer, so this one's farther away. And if you go down to the city's courtyard, we have cellular towers there, and they're actually probably 6 feet away from the rear property line. So this one is farther away than the accessory structures on the adjacent properties. And I think with that, I will close. I'm available for questions, and the property owner is here as well and can answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from staff or from the committee? Go ahead.
So you mentioned the bioswales on the site. Could you just show me where they are? Because maybe they're on there and I don't know how to read it.
There's a large one right here,
Okay.
which is more of a detention basin. They run along the side here, all along here, and up this side here. There's some drop inlets that they feed into.
I had
Go
a
ahead.
question.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a question for you. When I was looking at this diagram, I was noticing you were talking about where the trash area is, and I noticed there's a loading dock across from there. Is that right?
That's correct. That's a depressed loading dock right there.
And has a railing around it, I assume. The thing that bothered me was the clearance between the trash and the loading dock. I think for a truck, it seemed like it was very narrow. Yeah, that's all. I'm not sure the distance, but it looks like a truck would have trouble actually getting into that loading dock, the way it's designed.
I would say that the plans have been reviewed by the fire district and their vehicles, so obviously the fire lane, there'll be fire lanes, so they'll have to comply with the district's fire lane requirements, and those are typically greater than the trash collection vehicles.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It just looked narrow, that's all.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question here too. I understand that the parking requirement changed, but I'm somehow either in your presentation or the material here, I'm unclear in my mind what besides the parking really changed from the previously approved project.
If you look on the lower left-hand side where you can see that there's a large collection of trees there, more prominent.
Yes.
There were 6 additional spaces in this area here that have been removed from the plan.
Okay, and is that why we're reviewing that? That's the reason.
I can help with that, just to provide some context. The reason the project is here is that the previous entitlements have expired. And so JP was just pointing out some of the changes since the previous entitlement.
And does that also affect it shouldn't affect the adoption of the MND for the project either, for the environmental?
No, it doesn't. The property's been disturbed twice in the past, issued grading permits.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions?
There's a comment that a depressed loading dock has been removed. Is that another one, or is this not accurate?
So in the 2008 approval, there was 2 loading docks. There was one here and one here. This one has been enclosed. Mike is down to your right here. He is prospective owner and tenant in that area, and that works better for his operation than the depressed loading dock. It's also a water quality improvement from my eyes, and so we were kind of happy to see that enclosed.
Mike?
Yes, I do have a comment and asking for a clarification from from the owner or staff, and that is that planning staff refers to skylights have been moved to the north faces and solar panels moved to the south faces. The arrow is sort of at a 45, and so there's a discrepancy between staff and what the architect is calling north, south, east, and west, and so on the architect's plans, the skylights and solar are on east and west faces of their elevations.
Right.
And so I would just like that be clarified and straightened out on the plans so that the site plans correspond with the architect's plans. And I don't know if that's a 30-degree or 45, so I can understand where they would select one or the other, being in that position occasionally, but that's at least the conform between, and also just for solar exposure, so that the solar panels are not called on the west side, which our solar person could probably agree is not,
Not where I put them.
not the best location. So just that could be corrected on the plans.
We can definitely have that corrected. Thank you.
I have another sort of simple question as an architect. Why is there a poured concrete wall that's made to look like concrete block? What would be the purpose of doing that? Just curious.
Hi, I'm Arthur Vollert. I'm the owner of the property, also design builder, general contractor. The concept of the cast in place with the form liner is strictly for strength. On the inside, you have a smooth concrete lower bench, basically, where you have the architectural feature on the outside with the form liner. So it was an availability, and it also matches the other buildings that are across the street, which were, frankly, designed by the same architect, Ed Soul, back in the day. So anyway, so we're just trying to be consistent with what's there on the other buildings.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Clarification with staff, so we're being asked to approve a variance about where to put the garbage enclosure. Had that already been approved, that variance, in the previous round? Or is this
No,
new?
this committee doesn't have purview over that entitlement. JP was just pointing it out to you because it is a significant piece of the design.
Okay, thanks.
I have one other question about trees. Planning Department comment number 17 suggests placing the proposed Chinese pistache tree with the flowering pear, because that's what's in the area. So it's interesting because I've raised this concern on our previous project before. From everything I've heard about flowering pear trees, they don't last very long. They're within like 10 years, their branches are breaking off, they're more susceptible to a blight, or they are susceptible to a blight, and actually this one, the aristocrat, is more susceptible than even the Bradford pear, which is less long-lasting from what I've heard. So it's a tree that is picked often because it flowers so soon and it grows quickly, but because it grows quickly, it also has structural issues. So I completely understand why one would choose it to be consistent on the site, but especially in an industrial site, which could stay this way for many, many, many years, why not pick the tree that's going to last longer?
Is that leaving
the Chinese pistache? It's a very, very good street tree. Will last a really long time.
Yeah, I am aware that you had that concern previously, so I asked JP to be extra diligent about truthing that, and he may want to add here the discussions that he had with the landscape architect, including our consulting landscape architect. And, well, I'll let him tell you what he found.
Oh, I did raise these issues, and he didn't seem to think they were valid, in his opinion, that this particular cultivar of flowering pear is not susceptible to blight. The other trees in that area were doing fine and weren't experiencing blight, and he thought that consistency, maintaining that consistency with the trees was important. I deferred to his judgment, being a landscape expert, architect.
Is a question I have then is, comes from the Planning Commission, but that entitlement has run out as part of it. I mean, this direction from, previous direction from the Planning Commission has run out. So in fact, if we felt so moved to make a comment on that, to pass it forward to Planning Commission again, we could do that.
You know, I don't recall if what tree was part of the previous entitlement. So you're free to make any comment you like on the landscape plan, sure. Yeah. And the project in general.
Yeah. Sometimes too much. But we do need to keep a line in terms of what is ours to review and what is not. It's a problem I've had since the first time I sat on this committee.
I will say all the comments that are referred to as planning comments, those were comments that were generated out of this review. They're not carryovers from a previous approval. In general, they have met all the conditions of that previous approval. So.
Okay.
And I'll just add, all other things being equal, the particular problems or potential problems with a particular tree aside, planning staff would typically condition a project to keep consistency with the street trees that were there. There may be a couple kinds, species there, but we would look for something that was consistent.
Any other questions for staff? Then I would, if none, then I would ask my one here, the public comment item number 2, the email that we received from a Lori Alderman, if I pronounced that correct, regarding a concern about tiger salamanders on the site. I'm just loosely, without reading it into the record or anything, she is indicating that it wasn't adequately addressed in the update, and yeah, well, I think it's also, I think it goes back to the approval of the adoption of the MND, and that 30 days is over. So that this is really not a question, not even a question for this committee, that's for one, but that was my thought on it anyway.
Yes, I think the commenter's concern derives from the fact that the site is within the mapped CTS habitat. But she was speaking absent the facts of this particular case, which is the full project was mitigated for when the original subdivision was done, and they effectuated those approvals by building the other lots, restoring the habitat on the remaining parcel, and by grading the site not once but twice. So it has in all cases been effectively mitigated for.
Thank you. So let's bring it back to the committee. Any discussion about this project or motion or whatever?
I just had another question, I guess.
Go ahead.
And this is the owner, I guess, designer. On the solar system, was that ever specified, or is this just an idea that you had?
One of the comments that came back in our initial submission was that we show the solar panels in our renderings for it, if in fact they are planned for in the future. We do not plan on placing solar panels at this time.
Okay, so it's an add-on later.
We have designed the collateral loads into the roof to support them, but as of right now, we do not plan on it.
Okay. You might look into that because it could change your roof angles, that's all. And this gentleman down here made that comment too about the orientation and the angles are, if you're trying to get the most power out of it.
Right.
If you're not, then, it'll work, but it won't be optimum.
It
Sort
would
of depends on what you want out of it.
Right, and it would be something that we take a hard look at and how we design it.
Yeah, because it could alter the roof. That's,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, our plan is to stick with the roof
okay.
design as it is now. So we would adjust the solar panels to.
You could stand them off or something like that and
Possibly, yes.
modify it some. Okay. I didn't know how far you went into this. When I saw the diagrams, I thought, well, since there wasn't much discussion of it, I figured it was a kind of an add-on, like you discussed. So.
Yes, yeah. We're eventually, I'm sure someone will want to put them on, but
Yeah, it's a great idea, and with battery backup and so forth. I mean, that's what a lot of companies are doing now, particularly warehouses in general, too. It supplies a fair amount of power and so forth. So it's a good idea to do that.
a lot of adjustability with the new panels and those type of things, so.
There was one other comment that I noticed in the text, I think it was. You said that the roof qualified as a cool roof?
That's correct.
Is that according to the California standards? I think there's some documents out on that.
That's correct.
Okay. Do you know what the parameters were?
I don't know the exact.
Solar reflectivity and the infrared?
Reflectivity, I think it's on the documents that we submitted, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
But it was a question that came up, and we did address it.
And it's qualified.
The building is a Butler brand building, which is one of your better quality structures.
Yeah.
And they are leading in that regard as far as reflectivity and so on.
I went out to the site. I liked it. I liked your design with respect to how it fits in and everything. So it looks good to me. I mean, just overall, other than the little stuff. So, yeah, it looks like it will fit very well there.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's been a long time coming, so it's nice to.
Yeah, I know. It's quite a history you have here.
So
Okay, thank you.
looking forward to it.
Mike,
Yeah, just a little bit clarification on the cool roof. It says blue in the documents. It's illustrated as a dark gray. It seems like a dark gray would be a difficult to get.
I'm sorry,
cool roof.
clarification. I think the dark gray you see may be the solar panels, but the ocean blue, the blue color there is actually the roof panels.
Okay.
And then you have the wall panels are the gray and or the tan. And then you have what they call a cool brick red will be some of the trim.
And just a personal comment, I don't know if it's within our purview or not, but the Muntins on a large-scale industrial building, I think is an attempt to make it look more residential, and I personally would rather have nice, large openings, so rather than dividing this windows up on a large scale.
The windows at the entryway are, just as you suggested, it's the smaller windows that kind of face the parking lot. There's no entry associated with them. And actually, it's really consistent with the other buildings in that area. They use that same design on their smaller windows. But you have kind of a combination.
any other questions? Thank you. So, what do we feel about this? The staff has recommended somewhere that we recommend they recommend approval of the preliminary design review under the following copious conditions. One of those, or lengthy conditions, excuse me, that would be a more appropriate statement. One of them is number 17 under planning, which, Lars, you made a comment upon, but we're over time. We need to wrap this up. We need a motion on this or discussion, and I'd love to have some more. So,
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I believe that I was on the design review when we originally reviewed the building. I think I've been around that long. And I think it looks good and appropriate for the site, and so I would go with the design that we have with the conditions.
Is that a motion?
Are we ready for a motion? I make a motion that we approve the preliminary design review with the conditions as listed by the planning department.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion?
I'll just say, I'd agree with Sally that it's a good project, and the kind of additional things that the staff has gotten in the project, I think, are great. You know, additional landscaping, fewer parking spaces, all that, I think is just an improvement.
Okay, please call the roll.
Member Glendenning? Aye. Member Langberg?
Aye.
Chair Morgan?
Aye.
Vice Chair Weaver?
Aye.
Member West?
Aye.
Member Connell?
Aye.
Member Lampert?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Looks like a good project.
Yeah. No, it looks very good space.
All right. Are there any reports by staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a couple of things to mention. I emailed this to to everyone, a couple of committees, commissions, and all of you earlier, but you may have not seen your emails yet, just to let you know about a walk coming up on the Laguna, which looks really interesting and features a lot of our knowledgeable experts in the city, so not city staff, but community of Cotati. So I wanted to let you know about that. You will be seeing, as JP mentioned, several actually. JP, could I ask you guys to go out in the hallway? Sorry. Some single-family homes that are coming in, some infill lots, so those JP actually will be bringing forward pretty soon. And the big multifamily project that you all reviewed a year or so ago is not quite ready, but it's in the pipeline coming forward, as well as the single-family subdivision on Valparaiso. We also have potential buyers for the Village Walk site. That's the one in Lancaster and East Cotati, where the street improvements have been in for a while. So that one have all of our fingers crossed, hoping that one will get sold and get built. And those are kind of the bigger projects that are coming around. We're finishing up edits to the countywide climate action plan, and I know you guys won't see that as a body, but the public review draft will be out probably in the next 30 days. So that'll be an interesting document, I think, for all of you to look at, sort of integrate. It will have significant repercussions, or I should say implications for our development projects. So it's something that we'll all need to be well versed in. And I think with that, that's what's lots of stuff going on. Nothing, not too many things ready yet, but a lot of stuff brewing out there.
Thank you. Any reports from the committee? No? I would have a comment that it's been quite a while since we've actually had an election of the chair and vice chair. And while I think I sure don't mind doing it, I think it would be good with now even several newer members of the thing that we agendize that for our next meeting if possible. Whether we stay the same or move on, I'm happy to do whatever the people wish here, but I'd like to see that brought forward.
Sure, that's a good point. We usually do that right after the calendar year, but when we don't meet for 4 or 5 months, it's hard to do that, isn't it? We'll do that. Thank you.
Do you know when our next meeting will be? Do you have any idea?
The next projects will be the single-family homes that we referenced earlier, and they're probably 45 days at least.
Okay. With that, barring any further business, adjourn the meeting.